Hello YouTube, today we're going to be talking about cheat reps. And to introduce the topic, I'm going to tell you the story of how I actually got introduced to the method and the long history I've had with cheat reps because I've been doing cheat curls for 13 years now, so it's been a very long time. So the way it worked for me is that as a young man, the one thing I wanted more than anything else was big biceps. And so what happened is that I started doing bicep exercises. But the thing is that I knew nothing about lifting. So when I started doing curls, I realized that if I cheated, if I gave some momentum, I would be able to lift more. And so in my head, I made the connection between heavier weights and heavier curls. And what just ended up happening is that I naturally started doing cheat curls. If you had told me back in the days I was doing cheat reps, I wouldn't have really understood what you meant. Because to me, the only type of curls were cheat curls. And that lasted for a very, very long time because I did them, I think, for 5, 6 years before I realized that this wasn't strict. And yet, I got great results from it. And it's what made me want to do this video because I know that cheat reps are a bit of a conundrum for many people. They don't know if it works, they don't know if it's worth doing. So, as someone who did do it for a very long time, I think I have a lot of things to share with you. First and foremost, of course, cheat reps are easier, and that's the reason why young me actually started doing them. But they're not easier for the reason people think. You're not cheating in the sense that you're cheating at a competition, because you're not competing against anyone. That's the first thing that's important to keep in mind. When people say cheat reps, what does it mean exactly? Because you're not entering a competition with other people to win a prize. So it's not cheating in the sense that it's bad morally. Even though if you listen to some, especially the performers out there, the people who are strength athletes, you would believe that it is because in their mind, if you don't abide by the rules and you don't lift strict, it doesn't count. That ideology and mindset is of course worthless for bodybuilders. Regardless if it's cheating or not, if it works for bodybuilding, it works, period. And the same goes for cheat reps. So cheat curls in this case need to be considered with that in mind. We're not going to think about it if it's right or wrong. We're going to think about it in terms of is it effective or not. Now, when it comes to cheat curls, again, as someone who did thousands, tens of thousands of reps of cheat curls, I can tell you one thing with certainty, and that is that it works. Meaning that the idea again that just because you cheat you're not going to get results in terms of hypertrophy is entirely idiotic and based on what I can only call form policing, meaning that it's people who see a technique they don't like because it's not clean and they're going to attack it on that basis and they're going to try and extrapolate out of that the fact that it's not proper because it doesn't work. That is bullshit. Cheat reps do work. And the proof is in the pudding because someone like me who only did cheat curls for almost 10 years got massive biceps out of that. My best body part is my biceps. And when I started, the only exercise I did was cheat curls because I was obsessed. And I realized also that if I only focused on them, I was going to progress tremendously. So I did them every single day. I know it sounds insane, heavy cheat curls every single day, and yet I never got injured. I got great results from it. This was a one-track focus, a one-track mindset that got me tremendous results. I almost did, in a sense, Bulgarian training for my biceps with cheat curls, and this method got me my first gains. Now, this is only in terms of effectiveness. And this is what I wanted to open the video with because I don't want you to think that I'm going to just be shitting on cheat reps. It's not the goal. The goal instead is to see if you are going to be able to do it. Because the question I want to ask now is, was it worth it? Do I regret doing cheat curls? Do I think I could have gotten better results with a different method? And if we are to face the truth and I'm to be honest with you, the answer is yes, meaning that if I could do it all over again, I would not be doing cheat curls because I think that it's not that it's a waste of time, but it's not the most effective method, and most importantly, it's not the most consistent method. So let me explain exactly what I mean by that. What is the reasoning behind it? Well, in my opinion, I could have gotten the same type of results with clean, strict curls. But it's also important to say that there's no point in rewriting history. I got my results with cheat curls, and therefore I can say that they work. But I can also admit that it wasn't the best idea because I should have gotten injured. I should have had some problems down the line. Heavy cheat curls every day shouldn't have worked, but it did. And again, this also speaks to the nature of training as a whole. A stupid method done long enough will give you results, much more than a smart method done once or twice. So that also speaks to the importance of consistency in this game. But it does not mean that cheat reps are super effective. They are in that weird middle ground of the hypertrophy game. Because even though I do think that cheat reps work, I think also that they are usually widely unnecessary and that they have pretty big drawbacks. And actually, these drawbacks are the reason why, even after 13 years of a non-stop love affair with them, I can still see the problem with cheat curls in particular and why I decided to drop them. Even though, again, it's the only bicep exercise I did for 7-8 years and I got most of my mass from it, I realize now that I can do better because I know better and I want to give you that knowledge as well. So let's discuss the problem with cheat reps in particular. Unlike what you might think, the issue is not injuries. Many people think that cheat reps equals snap CD, and actually that's not true. With experience, I can tell you for a fact that a willed cheat rep, one that you want to cheat, will not cause injury because you are mentally and physically prepared. I've found that the people that get injured doing cheat reps are the people that surprise themselves with cheat reps. What I mean by that is that this is the type of guy that starts a set, wants to get 8 reps, and then at the 4th rep, they realize, oh, I will never be able to get 8, but their ego can't take it, so they start to cheat to be able to get their sets done. And that is when you snap yourself, because you started the set strict and then you let your form degrade. That is typically the type of idiocy that leads to tendon damage, muscle damage. In truth, if you enter a set knowing you're going to cheat and you cheat from rep 1, nothing bad is going to happen because there is no form degradation. The form is the same. When you cheat curl, for example, and I'm sure I'm going to plug footage of me cheat curling in there, you have to use the same amount of cheating force from rep 1 to rep 8. If you cheat more and more and more, now that's a problem because you're using the cheat to be able to get the weight up, not as a method to actually bypass certain portions of the rep, etc. We're going to get back to that because this might be confusing to some, but there is a right and a wrong way to cheat. And if you cheat the right way, you'll never get injured. I can tell you this, I'm a prima donna. I would never do an exercise that's dangerous, especially for bicep. I protect my bicep tendons like they are the most precious possession I own. And that is because I had skinny arms my entire life. I built up my arms from 10 inches. You think I'm going to let anything happen to my biceps? No shot in hell. And yet I did cheat curls on a daily basis. What does it mean? It means that they're safe. So don't trip with that. The injury is not the problem unless you are a complete moron. And if that's the case, anything you will do in the gym will be a potential injury risk. So instead, let us discuss the real problem with cheat curls. And that is cheat curls and anything else cheating in reality. And that is difficulty in directing tonnage. What I mean by this is that when you cheat, you have a much tougher time knowing where the tonnage is going to go because it's tougher to actually target a muscle in particular. Now, let us discuss cheating as a definition, just so that we're clear on this, because what I just said might be confusing to some. So, for me, the best definition I can give you is this. Cheating is using momentum or levers to bypass parts of the range of motion. This is, I think, the most accurate definition of cheating we can have for lifting. which by the way also means that certain lifts like a push press is technically cheating because you're using momentum and force to bypass the bottom of the overhead press. Does it mean that a push press is a stupid lift, that it's a cheating lift? No, it's just a lift where you're going to decide that this portion of the range of motion I'm not interested in. This is important because I think that people like powerlifters, like calisthenic athletes have poisoned cheat reps because now most people misunderstand what it means. They think that we're talking about a rep that is not performed in a competition style. That's not what a cheat rep is. Like for example, a pull-up. A partial pull-up is not a cheat rep in the sense that we're not doing it the right way. It's a cheat rep because you cut the portion of the range of motion you're not interested in. One is a judgment of value, the other one is an hypertrophy technique. Cheating as an hypertrophy technique is always valid as long as you can justify it for yourself. You don't have to justify it to others. The most important part is that it works and it actually serves an intended purpose in your training. So that is what cheating is. It's always going to be that definition and that definition only. But if we abide by these standards, there is a problem. And that is that if you're going to do that and you're going to bypass a part of the range of motion, it's going to be very hard to stay honest with yourself and not chase numbers, because many people cheat not because it's going to be particularly good for hypertrophy, but because they want to lift more weights. And I was the exact same. For me, I had a goal in mind. I wanted to cheat rep for curls 100 pounds. And I got there. Actually, it's one of the big reasons why I'm quitting is because I'm not interested in pushing the bill anymore. I got the number I wanted. But I also understand that it could have been easy to constantly try to go higher and higher with weight on the bar, regardless of the effects on my biceps. Thankfully, I was so obsessed with bicep size that I always took cheat curls very seriously. I was always honest with myself, and I always cheated the right amount. But the thing is that with any cheat method, you can always put in more force to increase the momentum or turn the lever into a better lever, which also results in higher weights on the bar, but not necessarily more muscle fiber damage. And this is where the cheating trap becomes, because there is cheating and cheating. You can cheat at 10%, you can cheat at 50%. The two will not give the same results. And if you start a lift at 10% and you slowly go to 50%, now again, there is form degradation, you risk injury, but on top of that, tonnage is not directed the way it was supposed to because you stopped being honest with yourself. And the problem with this is that this performance mindset is everywhere, and many people start clean and then go into cheating reps, not because it's a planned decision, but because the workout just devolved. It got out of hand because you started chasing performance again. But this is the case and the point where all of these people who tell you you have to do it clean and strict do have a point, and it does make sense now. If you set out to do a rep the proper way, then do it the proper way. Don't cheat it. Only cheat if you have decided to cheat before the set. Because if you don't, you're going to end up with an exercise that was once cheated to boost hypertrophy, that is now turned into something entirely useless or dangerous because it now serves no purpose at all. And the best example of that is what I'm going to show to you right now with these cheat rows. I started doing these cheat rows because I thought they were going to blow up my lats. And when I got started, they did because I cheated properly. But the more I put weight on the bar, the more I cheated on them, to the point that they then became what you are seeing right now. If you have a functioning brain, you're going to realize that this is not going to grow my lats at all because this is a pure hip hinge. It's almost a Romanian deadlift. But at the time, I wasn't aware of that because I was caught in the cheating trap. Thankfully, a subscriber actually set me straight. It took me some time, but I realized they were right. What I was doing wasn't working my back. And this is the issue with cheating reps. It's easy to be caught up in the numbers and stop looking at hypertrophy. I started this exercise to grow my upper back. Before I knew it, it was a leg, hamstring, and glute exercise, and therefore it had no purpose. It wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. And this is exactly what ego lifting is. Ego lifting is widely overused nowadays by people who, the second they see you lifting something heavy, or accuse you of ego lifting. That says more about them than it says about you. They're just insecure pussies. But there is sometimes cases where ego lifting is a thing. And for the most part, that is when you end up cheating yourself. That is real ego lifting, when you let your own insecurities, in a sense, push you into more and more weight, even though you know deep down that it's not going to result in anything relevant in terms of muscle growth. That is when cheat reps don't work. That is when they become dangerous and useless on top of that. But if you have the discipline to stay controlled, to always cheat the same amount, to cheat in a controlled fashion, it can be a great tool, because an extra cheated rep is better than no rep at all. We're going to go right now beyond the simple idea of a cheat style. And we can now start discussing what happens when you cheat on purpose when you reach a certain threshold. You could do what I did and decide to just cheat the entire set. But I'm here to tell you that it's not optimal. Meaning that any type of cheating method for lifting, for the most part, is going to be subpar. Always prefer the strict orthodox method. But it doesn't mean that we're limited to that. What you can do, and the best way to use cheat reps, is to start the reps and the set clean. And then when you cannot get a clean rep anymore, willingly cheat in a way that is actually safe and that allows you to crank out more reps. Because between a guy that does six reps of curls clean and a guy that does 6 reps of curls plus 3 or 4 cheated, the second guy will get more results with almost no increase in the injury risk, and therefore it's a very smart method. We can also compare the guy that is going to get 10 reps cheated and 10 reps clean and say who is getting better gains. And I'm here to tell you that from my experience, they both get very similar gains. So it's not an interesting comparison. The smart guy is the one that is going to slap on cheated reps at the end of his set. Always controlled, always in a fashion that is not going to put you at risk. And that is usually what is called in bodybuilding forced or assisted reps. You can also call them momentum reps. Control negatives or assisted negatives are also part of the same tool set. They are all methods to expand the set, slap on additional reps with a little bit of help, that are always going to add to your hypertrophic bag and tonnage and will result in better gains. And that's especially true with certain isolation exercises for the arms that are very safe to perform, cheated, that you can do with no risk at all, and that at the end of the day will make you bigger overall. So embrace it. Don't let people talk you out of cheating because it's bad. This is not a morality discussion. There's no good or bad. It's not a competition with other people. What matters is the results at the end of the day. Once you actually understand that, you will be able to utilize cheat reps properly. And as a conclusion, I can say that this is going to be mostly by sticking to clean lifting and then stacking some cheat reps on top of that. And I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.